I'm so excited to get a chance to have a conversation with you, and I have so many questions for you. It's kind of like when I sat down with Chris, I'm like, I know so much about you, and yet there's so much I don't know. So maybe just start with like a little background, who you are, what you were doing before you got into NFTs, and you know, yeah, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay. Well, my name is Sonja. I have kind of been creative all my life, but not really a formal artist until the last few years. My first career was in software, and did that for about a decade, and then got really tired of working for other people and the pressure and all that stuff. But I love the problem solving and the technical side of it. And, you know, being around really smart people is always really fun. So I kind of miss aspects of it, but I think that's one of the draws for me to Web3 is that there's so much technical information to consume, and it's just all very exciting. So I love that side of it. And then I left software to go into full-time investing. So I made the transition, I think it was like 15 years ago now. I left my job and I've been working for myself ever since, mostly real estate, apartment buildings in particular, and kind of started out like I started out, I guess, as an artist, like with my tool belt and a screwdriver, a hammer, and I'm like, let's fucking go.
Like you do everything. Yeah.
I just jump in. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just jump in. But, you know, I bought my first little building and lived in it and remodeled it and figured out how to be a landlord, and figured out that none of it is actually scary. It just, you have to do it. And it just all just grew from there as I gained confidence. And so that's kind of led me up to today. I was starting to phase out of actively working, and I just had some more time to be creative and be a mom. And then when COVID hit, I had to step back in because I lost my staff. You know, nobody wanted to work. I couldn't actually collect rents, but I had bills to pay. And so it was a very...
did you go through that where your tenants weren't paying rent?
Fuck yeah.
Oh,
fuck yeah. Okay, I don't mean it.
Oh, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Okay.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah, but you know, I would say like a lot of my tenants that couldn't pay really couldn't pay, and so I worked.
So it wasn't just people taking advantage.
I think about 10% of my tenants were taking advantage of the system, but I couldn't blame them. You know, because if the law is set up a certain way, there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of what the current regulations say. You know, it's that's how I kind of normalize not being angry over being the middleman in people taking advantage of a system that really sucks to start with. Because, you know, and I don't have any gripes because at the end of the day, the federal government did bail me out of most of it. But I had some, like, you know, some issues with people doing drugs, and like now they all of a sudden have this time on their hands, let's start selling drugs.
Yeah, right.
And so there was some stuff I had to clean up, and so that really burned me out. I loved working on remodeling buildings before that because it was the creative visual process for me. I just loved, and I love creating a little business that works out of nothing. You know, you take this piece of land and you make this thing that earns income and gives people houses and creates energy and sustains life. And it's just like, it's fascinating to be part of it. Yeah, so really I love that side of it. And then just seeing the negative side of society really just, I was like, I'm done. So I've been backing out of that again, and I'm kind of down to where I'm not having to work in it anymore. So this first couple of years in NFTs have been interesting because it was like having to run my whole business by myself on top of make art, on top of try to do the NFT thing. And it was like, it's been the busiest fucking year of my life. Like,
yeah. Yeah. How do you manage that? And then you have, I mean, you're a mom,
right?
So
I don't manage it well. I would say up till I hired somebody October 1st to take over my responsibilities. So now I can just focus on mom and art and Web3 and whatever else I want to do. Because I think 50% of my responsibilities I was falling down on, because it's just impossible for one person to do it all. And so now at least I'm in a place where I can do 80% of my work, and I'm only falling down on 20%. So it feels better.
That's progress, right?
Totally progress. But I think those two things really geared me up to be here, because the tech side was so perfect, and I really miss working in tech. I just don't miss the atmosphere of tech. I don't miss the bro culture. I mean, there's still some of that here, but but I really miss the problem solving. And then working for myself kind of got me ready for this space, and not having anybody who can ever tell me actually what to do. It's like, you just have to figure it out. And that's just what business is about. You just dive in and figure it out. So, yeah.
So the bro culture thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you, I know that you were working with a group of female artists, and you guys were starting a project called Just Fucking Show Up, right? Is that still going? Where is that? And
oh my gosh. Well, I still have the wall and the Twitter handle. That's about as far as we went. So we tried really hard to keep the energy going after we talked at our conference. And there was just a lot of miscommunication with people who were supposed to be sponsoring us. And we just realized that their intentions were not aligned with ours necessarily. And there was just, I think there was a lot of burnout from us, because we'd been working really hard on something, and then it just was like, we just got deflated. So I don't want to say that it's dead, but we're not actively talking about it. The concept has to happen.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the concept? Because I think it's a really powerful thing that you guys were starting. So,
well, what it was, we wanted to raise money through selling our donated art to fund tickets to send women to conferences, because it's some of the other ladies and I, some of them are just artists, and the others of us come from tech stuff too. So we're really used to showing up at these conferences, and it's being so dominated by men. And so my experience, like the first NFT NYC, was showing up by myself, not like, I'm an introvert too, and so I don't just go up and meet people. So if I don't have a prearranged buddy, I tend to really just hunker back in the corner. But it was really, really hard to even break into conversation when it's just, a whole group of dudes standing around talking about dude shit. And like, it's the beer drinking bro culture that's just so hard to penetrate when you're not that. And not having, a woman to walk back to the hotel room. It's like, things like that were becoming really clear to me as unsafe, because, New York is New York. But, I had somebody pacing me down a back alley on the way to hotel, that like that shit happens everywhere. But it's like, why does it always have to happen? I'm so tired of it happening. And so what we wanted to do was just get more women to the events, so that we have buddies and have like, the idea is like breakfast gatherings, so you can pair up with people and make friends. And so it's partly having other women there, but also feeling like all of us introverts have a buddy, because a lot of us are introverts. And the really fucking shitty thing that happened, so we did a talk, the group of us, at a little NFT thing in Vegas, and one of the women was actually assaulted after the conference, at the fucking conference.
Oh my God. Wow.
At the fucking conference. And it was just like, the rage, it's really hard to keep the rage down. Because unless it's your life, you just don't realize how active it is.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think that, because I think I joined a Twitter space where you and some of the other artists that were involved were talking about it, and I'm like, God, it's definitely not unique to the NFT space. Like you said, it's tech. It's, I mean, even like every conference I've ever been to, it's mostly men. And so, I don't obviously know what the solution is, but I think that what you're talking about is definitely part of it. And even just talking about it is part of it.
Right. And, and part of it is like most men want to be part of the solution. They just don't understand it's happening. And there was a man at the event where the woman was having trouble with this guy who looked at her and saw this guy like grabbing her and trying to kiss her. And like, he saw this and thought, oh, well, it must be consensual. He assumed that she wanted it, as opposed to assuming, hey, that's my friend. Maybe I'm just going to go ask if she's okay.
Yeah.
And so it's part of this of just, it's one thing to be really angry when I'm sitting here in my house and have the right words to express it. It's another thing when it's happening to you to be able to react in a way that tells people what's happening, and so part of it is just an awareness of, if you see somebody, and you're not sure if that's should be going on, just go ask them. Go, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, right.
And they'll either say, oh my God, or like, oh, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah. So I mean, the bro culture thing is like how do you feel like that pervades the whole Twitter, NFT, Web3 space, like outside of conferences even?
Yeah, I'm feeling it less now than a year
Mhm.
ago, because I would sit in on spaces a year ago and guys, there were only men on the speaker panel, and women would get talked over. We wouldn't get invited up. Guys would refer to us as chicks. They would say demeaning things like, oh yeah, so this chick I met at the party, I tried to do such, and it's like, whoa, do you not realize that we're women?
Yeah.
We're chicks. And you don't need to talk about us in a demeaning way. It's just like this attitude of lack of respect that I sensed so much that was really frustrating. And now I feel like, especially since the statistics came out about how male dominated the spaces and especially the sales, I feel like people have just, I feel it's shifting a bit more. I see more women in the space. I see more women up on panels, but so often I see these new initiatives coming out, and it's so often all men that are presenting these things. And it's like, is it that women aren't talking? I mean, what is this? Is it just that we need to be invited, or we need to have the louder voice, or like, why are we not? And at one point I was talking to somebody about the sales stats, and they were saying, well, but the sales stats that are so heavily male are including projects, and the dev team is male for that. And I'm like, but who fucking cares what it is? There are female devs too. It doesn't matter if it's a dev or an art thing. Like, we just need, and it's not like I'm losing my eloquence here.
Well, that's fine.
I don't know what the answer is. I feel like it's getting a little better, but
I was going to say the same, but I wanted to hear your perspective first, because I know, it was when I first entered the space about a year ago, a little over a year ago, it was total bro culture. And, it didn't matter if you were a boy or a girl or, whatever. Everybody was like, oh, what's up, bro? Hey, bro, what's up, dude? And it was like no consideration to even find out who the person is behind the Twitter handle, and I feel like, people are getting better about, just treating people as people, and not letting that sort of dominate. It still creeps in, but I feel like it doesn't dominate anymore. So
I feel like it's better. And I also just moved away from the people that were acting so heavily bro centric. I was just like, this isn't my circle. why am I here trying to break into something that doesn't want me? So I just like, I'm just going to go over here.
Yeah, that helps too. Yeah, so the change of environment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
But thank you for asking.
yeah, no, I was curious because I hadn't heard anything and I didn't know. I definitely I don't want, obviously I don't want that to go away. It'd be great if we could find a way to find some more support for that. You know,
Yeah,
especially with more stuff, IRL stuff coming up. So
totally.
um so your art is so unique. I think that it would be impossible for anyone to see your work and not immediately know it's yours.
Well, yay.
Uh, yeah, and so I'm just curious, like, how did you develop this style? Did you start with traditional medium and move into digital, or have you always done digital? And
Always digital.
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I think back to my very first computer. My dad brought home a Tandy 2000, and this was like I was, I think, 12 or 13. So this is like late 80s, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting, we each had an hour computer time a day, and I would bring in cans of soup from the kitchen and set them on the desk. And then I would draw in the old paint program, 1 pixel at a time. I would draw that can of soup.
Oh my God. Do you still have these?
No, this was so long ago.
It's not on a floppy disk somewhere.
Oh my God. I wish. And you know, playing like those games where it's like that little ball.
Yeah,
bounce.
Pong.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. So I did start out drawing though. Like my mom is an artist, and so she taught me how to draw pretty young. But my art was always pretty dark. Like I just kind of went right to skulls right away. I think part of it was anger with, I was really a rebellious adolescent. And so, you know, I was naturally drawn to the things that my parents would think are creepy. And then I don't know, I kind of dabbled with canvases and stuff, but like my idea of physical art is more like, let's go remodel an apartment building. You know, I like that. I've tried painting on canvas, and someday maybe, but I just don't have the patience to pick up that right now. So I really started with photography and started doing macro photography and finding the weirdest ways to show something that is, you just have no fucking idea what you're looking at. And so I started enjoying that bizarre aspect of it. And then about, I want to say 5-6 years ago, a friend of mine who worked with fractals kind of got me intrigued. I didn't like how he used them, but he showed me how he made them, and I started playing with them. And so that was sort of the start of my style, because I use fractals sort of like paintbrushes. You know, I just
can you explain what fractals is?
Yeah, it's a mathematical equation that creates this shape. And so fractals are found in nature. Everywhere you look, it's this repeating pattern that just goes forever and ever and ever. And so I've got this old software that I use that lets me pretty much enter everything manually. And then it just, so I get this style of fractal that isn't what I think you normally think of as fractal art. You know, you think of a lot of like the Fibonacci series stuff when you, So my stuff isn't that way. But what I like about it is it's like this sort of natural energy that comes with it, because it is a natural thing. And so I feel like the flow and the motion is there, and way more precision and way more depth, and just so much more ferocity than I could come up with by doing that with my paintbrush. Like I just feel like
it does feel very organic. The energy and the flow of it. Yeah.
And so I love layering in even 5, 6, 10 fractals into things, and you don't really even know they're there, but I swear, like, you perceive the energy from it. And it just gives it this gauzy effect. So he started teaching me about fractals, and I didn't really like his method necessarily, but it took me a couple of years of playing with them and just starting to appreciate them for what they were, to start realizing that I could layer them with my photography. And then I started to learn how to paint on the iPad, because that was a real new thing. I hadn't been digitally painting in anything up until 3 years ago, maybe.
Since your soup cans.
Yeah, I took a big break from that. Soup
Big break from soup to what you got now. That's a big deal. Yeah. So Procreate just like changed your life then, huh?
It did, because none of this I could do in Photoshop. Like I'm fine with photos and minor layering, but it's not my jam. So when I started using Procreate, it was I don't know, 8-12 hours a day, every day, just obsessed. So I figured it out. And now it's like I have my things, you know, that I do that are my style, that it's so fast for me. Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah.
So I feel like when I came into the NFT space, you were already going. When did you join? Like, I guess the question I have for you is, when did you mint your first artwork, and how long did it take you to sell that?
Yeah.
And then did you like get on a roll pretty quickly, or was it still kind of slow in the beginning? What was that like, the beginning of your journey like?
Yeah. So I minted my first NFT in March of 2021.
Okay.
Okay. And then I way overpriced it because I had no fucking idea what I was doing.
I think that everybody does. I think everybody does that, right?
I know. And so it sat there. And then in June, I'm like, fuck this. And I either deleted it or just drastically reduced the price. And I think I went down to like 0.03 for a 1-of-1. And so that's when I think I sold my first one. It was either at the end of June or the end of July. And I kind of got in a little bit of a roll because I was so cheap. I mean, it was like 0.03, finally get up to 0.05, woo, 0.08. You know?
Yeah, right.
But I don't think I ever really got in the full flow that a lot of people got in. Every sale felt like a struggle, and every sale still feels like a struggle. So, yeah, nothing is taken for granted.
Yeah.
But
so I know you've obviously been building your brand and your platform, your community over the last, I guess, what, year and a half now, right? Has it been a year and a half? Yeah, March. Yeah. So how much time do you spend on that part of it versus the time that you spend on your art? Because I know Twitter is just such you have to devote so much time to doing what you do.
It's insane. I need to learn balance because I go from spending 6 to 8 hours a day on Twitter, actively on Twitter, to just crashing and being like, fuck this shit. And then I jump on like for 30 minutes. And that's what I do for a week to recharge. It's so consuming. And so you can see where my obsession with learning Procreate, how much time Twitter takes. It's like I literally have no time for anything else.
Yeah.
And so I just wasn't sleeping. It was my life, totally my life. And it's really hard. I don't know how you feel about this. It's super hard for me to make art while I'm on Twitter because I can't get my head in that flow.
Yeah. I used to try to do both, and I would even like join a Twitter space and I'd be drawing at the same time. Now I'm like, I find like a old movie that I can just play in the background, or I have music on, and I'm just like in the zone when I'm doing art now.
Totally.
I'm probably an even worse multitasker than you could ever be, because my brain's just not wired that way. I can't multitask for shit.
Yeah, no.
I recognize that.
No, I think I used to be a better multitasker before I had kids, but I swear pregnancy changed my brain, and I just cannot do 12 things at the same time anymore.
Wait, were we having this conversation in a Twitter space where you were saying you learned that there's like a maximum of 3 inputs at a single time? Yeah, that was like I had an epiphany when you told me that, because I'm the same way. If if I'm like something's playing on the radio and I'm driving and somebody's talking to me, and when that third person starts to, it's like it's like the overload, and I shut down and I freak out.
Yes. It still happens to me, even though I know it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, it's not that I'm, I have no patience for my kids or whatever. It's just like, I can only handle so many things coming in at once. And it's that third one.
Yes.
Where it just pushes me over.
Yeah. And, mornings in Twitter land are so hard because like the input thing. So I wake up and instantly I've got now a puppy and 2 cats that all need food or attention or something. And then, I'm always late because we're in the Pacific time zone. So I feel like I'm 8 hours behind most of the people that I interact with. So I'm like on Twitter trying to get caught up with everybody before my kids get up for school, and then they want breakfast and I have to take them to school. And then usually my work crew was starting to roll at the same time. So they'd show up at my door looking for tools or a paycheck or guidance. And it was like this 3 or 4 hour window of when like my entire day would happen in those 3 or 4 hours. And all I really want to do is like wake up, have coffee in bed, and make art.
I know. That's the dream, right?
I know.
To just not even have to do all that.
I know. And so it's like now that I don't have the crew rolling up to talk to me in the morning, and like this week, my kids are with their dad. It's like, oh, I just want to make art in bed. I just want to make art in bed.
So is that what you're doing?
A lot of it.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Is that last night I was locked myself in my bathroom because it's the darkest room upstairs. And that's where I do a lot of my video work.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I set up little tables and I sit on the floor in the dark and everything's flashing at me, and I'm sitting next to the toilet on the floor.
I love that. That's awesome. One of the things that I think is most fascinating about you, of the things that I know, is your hobby of motorcycle riding. How did that happen?
So I've always loved motorcycles. Always. I remember buying my first Harley t-shirt when I was like 11 and being so proud of it. And I don't know if it came from my dad. My dad had a motorcycle for like a few months when I was a kid. And it was kind of a funny story how he got it. He wasn't a rider necessarily, but he was a farm boy. And so he grew up with motorcycles around the farm. And we were raising silver fox at the time. This is like before PETA and, fur being bad and all that. And so we had 100 fox out behind the barns on our house in cages and stuff.
No way.
Yeah. Kind of, it's weird talking about it now, but yeah. And so when the fur industry started to tank, my dad had to just get out of it. And so he ended up getting rid of all the fox, and then he had to sell all the equipment, and selling 50 large animal cages is kind of a weird thing to sell. And so we found one person willing to trade a motorcycle. And so my dad got this motorcycle.
Nice.
And I remember going on a ride with him, and it was just like bliss. It was so much fun. And something must have been printed then. I wanted one so bad. And it took me until I moved out to Seattle. I grew up in North Dakota. I had to leave the state, come out here. I set a personal goal for myself. I'm like, I'm going to get my first bike when I get to this certain point. And so when I did, I just went right to the Harley store and was like, this is what I want. And I was like, okay, now how do I get this home? Because I don't know how to ride.
How did you get it home?
I had a work friend come with me, and he lived really close to the office. And so what we would do is we parked it at the office, and then on his lunch break, he would show me how to ride in the parking lot, because I literally had no idea what to do. Yeah. And then it just grew from there. It's kind of an introverted thing to do. But I've figured out that my brain really likes to move. So this is another trick. Maybe you'll identify here too. My brain likes to move at 55, 60, 65 or higher. And then instantly I drop into this other meditative state where I'm not stressed out. I'm just like observing that I am not my environment. It's like you start realizing like you're zooming in this box through this thing. And it's like we're just living in this big game. And it becomes so apparent when I'm moving at speed. And so I love road trips, and motorcycles were super addictive for that reason, because I could get out there for 8 hours and just zoom and just become so detached and just like meditation for 8 hours.
So interesting. I love riding motorcycles. My friends had them when I was younger, and so I'd always I'd ride one of theirs, or I'd get on the back of one, and I just love it. Now I could never have one because I got kids and my wife would never let me, but yeah, so I was gonna ask you, so I think you answered my question, but do you only ride solo, or do you enjoy the camaraderie of riding with other riders?
Yeah, I don't like to do big groups because there's always some dumbass looking to fuck around, and then everybody runs into each other. I mean, that's like, over dramatization. But if I do ride in a group, it's usually just with one person. And that's more of a safety thing. Or like I used to do a lot of long distance trips with my ex. That was kind of our primary thing. We just go someplace for a week on our bikes, and we were always on our separate motorcycles. I'm too much of a control freak to ride on the back, because I'm always like, oh, let's can't do it.
Yeah, and you're giving over total control of everything.
Yes.
To somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. There was one time I rode on the back of the bike. Back before I bought my first BMW, I rode on the back of my ex's that we were dating then, because he had a BMW, and I just wanted to see how it felt. And so we did a quick trip up into Canada, and he said the entire time my legs were pinched on his hips so hard that he was getting hip nerve pain. I'm like, dude, I can't relax back here. I'm not in charge.
Yeah. And you have a Ducati right now, right?
Yeah, I still have my BMW too. They're just totally different bikes.
Yeah. The BMW is good for like long distances, right? Like cruising.
Yeah, except I don't really typically have the same, I don't have a proper cruiser for like long distances. It's not like the upright position where you sit and you're all like, you know, mine tend to be more hunched over, and I don't really like motorcycles with windscreens. So they are bad for long distance. I just make do. But the BMW is so fast and nimble. It's just really great for cornering. It's just like just tip, Yeah. And the Ducati just has such a fat back tire. It's really made for drag racing. And that's actually why I got that particular one, because when I had my Harley, I was fucking around on the track all the time, just because I love to go fast, and it's safer to do it on a track than to try to do it out on the street.
Yeah.
And I really did want to get back into drag racing like pre-COVID. And so I got the bike for it. It even has a launch mode. So it's like, it'll just, it's a really fast bike.
You're such a badass. What's the farthest you've gone on a motorcycle?
Las Vegas. I think that's the furthest.
Okay.
Yeah, distance wise.
How many? Was that a day or?
No, I think we took 2 or 3 days to get there. I think the hardest day, longest single day I did was probably the day I got my BMW. Boyfriend at the time, we got on our bikes and rode to Missoula. And I don't remember if that was a 10 or 12 hour day, but it was like, all right, let's break this bike in. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah, I wish I could do it more, but yeah, the kid thing. And
have you allowed your kids to ride on the back yet?
No, and I will never take them, but they can ride with their dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't trust yourself, or why?
Partly that I'm a good rider, but I just don't see a reason to take them.
Yeah.
I think if something happened, it would be so devastating to me. It's not even worth the small joy it would bring.
Yeah.
So
Do you want them to be writers at some point? Would you want them to be?
I want them to have whatever bad hobbies they choose. It's really hard to be a motorcyclist in Seattle anymore because traffic is so bad.
Yeah.
Like the last time I really went out, I have this route I used to take when I was learning to ride, and I lived outside the city that just wound through some of the smaller towns. And I still do that route from time to time. But the last time I did it, I was on the freeway doing freeway speed and not aware that traffic had changed to what it had changed. And now they were using the right lane as a turning lane because that suburb had gotten so full of people that now what never was backed up a mile and stopped traffic. And so there was just a couple of cases where I'm kind of aware, but like you turn a corner and there's a mile of stopped cars where you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
And it's just not really a fun place to ride. You have to get probably half a day out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So what else do you do to, like outside of art to chill out or get your mind off things? Like, are you an outdoorsy person? You hike?
Yeah, I like to go walking outside. I go to the water a lot, go to the beach. I walk around and collect shit and bring it home. I'm not a person with a backpack full of treasures. I'm kind of into food preservation, and this is kind of a weird one.
Okay.
I like to can, I like to dehydrate, and I went one step further and actually got a home freeze dryer. So,
wow. How long have you been doing this?
I started canning, 15 years ago. But so I grew up out in the middle of nowhere, and we had tons of gardens. My family didn't farm, but we were in the middle of farmland. And so we had about 3 acres of garden. And so every year I would help my mom harvest everything and then freeze and can everything. So I knew how to do it from when I was a kid. And then I started doing it as a hobby, 15 or so years ago. And I learned, I can make my own barbecue sauce. I can do all my own chutneys. I can make ketchup. I can I was obsessed. At this one summer, I spent my whole summer in the kitchen canning, and I was taking notes on everything I was making, and I make up my own recipes and stuff and just write it all down. I did 200 separate things, not cans, 200 separate recipes. And I was like, I couldn't believe how much canning. I just kept going. And
you got in the zone.
I totally got in the zone. But part of it stems from, I have a lot of food allergies. So I like to make a lot of my own food so that it doesn't include the stuff I can't eat.
Yeah.
So
So what are you mostly canning? Are you canning like fish or?
Most of it now anymore is fruit so that it's what my kids will eat.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had to dial way back on the jams and jellies or pickles. I love doing pickled asparagus. Pickled garlic.
Oh,
yes. Oh, yeah. Yum.
Love that stuff.
But I've sort of moved more into the freeze drying because freeze drying is the best way to preserve food and keep the nutrients. It's like 98 to 99% preserved with freeze drying, whereas even dehydrating heats up the food so much so it starts to kill some of it. But with freeze drying, it doesn't do that. You freeze it first, and then you're basically sucking the moisture out of it while it's vacillating between hot and cold. It's a really interesting process. And so you get food that is basically the same shape as when you started. It's just now crunchy because it has no moisture in it.
Yeah. So you bought like a freeze dryer?
Yeah.
A freeze dryer? Okay. Are they expensive?
Yeah.
Oh, they are. Okay.
I'm just crazy,
It's not like a practical thing I could just go buy and like keep in my kitchen.
No.
Unless it was a hobby I was committed to.
You have to be kind of committed. But for me, so I realized that, here's an example of why I like my freeze dryer. If you slice cucumbers and put a little bit of Trader Joe's taco seasoning in a bowl of water, dip the cucumbers in that, so it's just a little spicy, and then freeze dry them. So you lay them out and freeze dry them. They taste exactly like spicy potato chips, but it's cucumber. It's
Oh, see,
yeah,
now you're about to sell me on a freeze dryer. And
it's
well,
amazing. Like, because you can freeze dry anything except for really sweet things because they just kind of foam up and explode in the freeze dryer. And you can't freeze dry fat because there's the moist, you can't pull moisture out of that. So like freeze drying, if you're going to do meat, it has to be lean meat. You can't necessarily freeze dry really fatty jerky or something. You know, some things are still better dehydrated.
freeze dry meat? I did not know that.
Yeah. So I've been into like raw meat, raw food diets for dogs. I was helping a friend with that for a while. And now that I have my own puppy, I'm getting back to that. So I'll buy a bunch of organ meat, blend it up, fill the freeze dryer trays, freeze dry it. And now I have dry, freeze dried chunks of liver and heart and all the stuff as snacks for my dog.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a little obsessive.
So it sounds you're finding practical uses for this. It's not just
totally
a toy for you. It's an investment for sure. Okay. What kind of puppy do you have?
He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Is he around?
Yeah. Let me see if I can grab him. Otto. Otto. He's almost 5 months old. And I think he's about 57 pounds now.
Oh, wow. Big dog.
Yeah. Come here, buddy. Come here. Oh, come here, sweetie. Come with me. Oh, buddy. Oh, big stretch. Come here. Can you come over? Come here. Yeah. Oh, buddy. Oh, come here. I want you to come say hi to Noah. Come here, buddy. Okay, I had to wake him up.
Oh, I didn't mean for you to wait.
No, you're okay.
Now I feel
We'll
bad.
go right back to sleep.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna have to. Here, buddy. Oh my gosh. Here. Oh, sweetie. Oh. See if I can look at it. Oh, honey.
Oh, he's so cute.
Oh,
He's a big puppy.
really too big to comfortably hold.
Yeah, that's a big puppy.
Yeah, he is a big puppy. Oh,
He's so cute.
he's like, he is by my side all the time.
That's nice.
Yeah, except I trip a lot.
My daughter's obsessed with dogs, but we can't have a dog in our house here that we were living in. But she's just like if we're driving on the freeway and somebody has a dog in a car going the opposite direction at full speed, she'll see the dog and she's like, "Did you guys see that dog?" that obsessed.
Yes.
Wants to pet every dog and play with every dog. I feel really bad because, it'd be nice for her to have a pet, but we can't have one here.
Well, okay, so this might make you feel a little better. My girls are that obsessed. They've been asking for a dog for 6 years.
Okay.
So I get a dog. And I'm like, can you touch the dog? Can you pet the dog?
They don't want to have anything to do with the dog.
I'm like, oh my God.
Okay. All right.
So
Thank you. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, just get her more stuffies.
There you go. Yeah, we're just squishmallows all day long in this house. So.
Oh my God, yes.
She'll just have to be satisfied with a squishmallow.
Yeah.
So, okay, going back to your art. Do you have like a thought in your head where you're like, okay, tomorrow I have to create this? Or before you sit down with your canvas and Procreate, do you like develop out the idea before you get started? Or is it just totally like stream of consciousness, it just develops?
Everything is just as it comes out. If I try to do something, it doesn't work. So I think I'm probably a frustrating person to collaborate with because I can't tell you when I'm going to be done and I can't tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you just have to kind of trust me.
Yeah. How long do you have like unfinished pieces that you've been working on for a really long time that are just sitting?
Yeah. I've got probably 200 really viable whips.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And how many are you like really working on at once?
probably 5 or 10.
Okay.
And I cycle, or a lot of times what happens is I'll start something and like I've got a lot of abstracts that I've started. And then I get to a point where I really like the abstract, but I'm like, yeah, but I don't sell abstract art. So I'm just doing this because I love to do it. And so that might sit until I'm doing another piece and I'm like, oh, I need a section of color on this cheek over here. Ah, I have that abstract. Let me go grab it. And so I end up using a lot of my art with inside of other art.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But like with my video stuff lately,
go ahead. There's a
go
delay.
ahead. Oh.
No, there's a delay. Go ahead.
Yeah. With my video stuff lately, I think that's probably the most planned out that I've ever been because I'm doing all of the recording consistently. Like I'm using the same colors. I'm sitting in the same posture. Every single time I have my makeup done exactly the same. So it's like I can take footage from 5 different recording sessions and you don't know, it all blends together. And then I've got this idea for what I want to do with it. But it's, but when I sit down and do the video, all I know is that I'm going to do video tonight. Like I have no fucking idea what I'm going to do. There was one time.
Even for your video, you don't know?
No, I just set props up around me. And then I've got this piece of art, 2 pieces actually, that a friend of mine made that provides the computerized lighting, the changing lights and all that flashy stuff that you'll end up seeing. That's his art. And so I'm collaborating with him to use his art to create my art. And so I kind of loosely have an idea, but like one day I was sitting down playing with shadows and I discovered if I, held my hands at a certain point off camera, I could like give myself like bat wings on my eyes. I was like doing all this weird shadow work. And then I'm like fucking around with my face. And I realized that with the way the iPhone records in the dark, it's a little bit grainy and choppy. And I could kind of twist my face around and stick my tongue out and make myself become like a lizard. But it was, and I'm like, okay, this could just be a hallucination. Maybe I don't actually look like a lizard, but I'm going to record it all and look at it later.
Yeah.
I did look very lizard-like. It was like my tongue was just like, and it was just the way the shadows, it was like really fucking freaky. And so that's what I love about the stream of consciousness with video is I'm just really fucking around and going as far out there as I possibly can. And then just hoping that I will be able to string something cohesive together with it at the end.
Yeah. So what are you planning on doing with the video?
I've got a bunch of different little snippets I want to do, like the real jerky animation with motions of blending motions together. I've layered some of it in, like I've got this skull glitch piece that I was working on that I kind of liked it, but not enough to release it by itself. Well, then after my video thing, I took this video and this one part I was just shaking my head back and forth and I overlaid it a bunch. So it's all like horror movie shaky and then overlaid that on top of the skull glitch. And that looks really fucking cool. And so I really just want to have, I'm working on a collection of shorter segmented video clips that are just really weird. Kind of outside of the spoken word video stuff, because that's a little bit more on the emotional side. Yeah.
Okay. So this is like a collection you're working on coming soon.
Yeah. I started it a couple months ago and I just don't really feel like now is the time for me to push on finishing it. So I'm just getting together more footage and seeing what flows from it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm excited to see that stuff.
Thanks. I did one 2 nights ago and I played with wigs. And that was really fun. I would put the wig on and then look at myself in the camera until so long, and I wouldn't break eye contact until my face shifted. And then once my face shifted into a different form, then I could start moving and like doing things. But I was like waiting for that intense moment of whatever happens, that energetic flow. And it was really trippy because that's like, you know how you see yourself like one
Yeah.
way, right? And then you see yourself another way and you're like, who's that? I was twisting myself to see myself in the ways I never see myself, and then forcing myself to recognize that that's, while it's me, none of this is me. You know, it's like that
Yeah.
dissociation of I'm not my body because I'm in this thing, but I don't at all recognize what it looks like. And it was just,
Yeah.
so that's what I was doing with the wig play.
Interesting. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't. And so all this is on video. This whole
Yes.
experience that you had
Yes.
dissociating. Okay, cool. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's gonna be
Hopefully I'll be
really
able to
cool.
start releasing bits soon, but
Nice.
yeah.
Okay. Um, I know that you, with one of your skull pieces, you sort of described like the meaning behind skulls for you, like why you include them in your art and like what it represents for you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So hopefully I can say it like I said it then, because sometimes that free flow is the best thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have
I
to try to remember what you said, but like
yeah,
I'm just curious to if you could share that.
I think I like skulls because they're gender neutral. They don't have a race, they don't have an age. You know, we all have that inside of us. So it's, to me, it's a very blank canvas, but it's not just a blank canvas. It's like a blank canvas for humanity. And so it's the thing that ties us all together. And I don't see it at all as scary because I don't see death as being scary. It's just something that we carry inside of our body to give us form so that we can live. You know, without it, our brain would get so damaged, we'd die right away. And so it's just such a crucial building block for life that I just associate so much more life and vitality with them than I think most people. And
Yeah,
I just love the fact that they're expressionless. You know, you can give it everything. Everything comes from the art. Nothing
yeah,
comes from the skull.
yeah. It's so fascinating because I think as a society, culture here in America, it is, we associate skulls with death, and we don't we don't talk about death in our culture. It's
Yeah.
very, we're brought up to fear death, so we don't talk about it. We avoid talking about it, and then it becomes scary. And so I loved when you shared that, because I've always had an affinity toward skulls, and I couldn't really articulate why, because I'm like, they don't seem dark to me. And then when I read that
No.
from you, I'm like, that's it. That's what it is. It's like, like you said, it's like something shared by everyone. And you look at a skull, you don't know if it was a male or female, or if they were tall or short or skinny or whatever, like you don't know any of that. And
Yeah.
so I love that.
Yeah. The whole not talking about death is a really interesting subject, though, because the older I get and the more detached I get from my, you know, cultish religious upbringing, I don't fear death at all. And so it's like when I think about riding motorcycle, I was okay taking chances because I wasn't afraid to die. And so now, I dial it back because I don't want my kids to grow up quite this young without a mom. But it's like when I really think about death, it's like, yeah, but the next thing is coming. So
Mhm.
it seems like we're, especially the way I was raised, taught to fear this thing because, well, you get one life. You better fucking do it right. It's
Yeah,
like, no, it's just this flow.
yeah.
So let's just celebrate it all.
And where did that realization come from for you? Because it's a very like un-American perspective. Did it come from like an experience, or through traveling and experiencing other cultures, or where did that come from, or was it just something
The take
intrinsic?
on death.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm 46, and when I was about 40, I realized how much I hated organized religion and how much it contributes to people hating each other. And so I really started, actually, I had a therapy session where I did a lot of hypnosis to kind of get past trauma that I couldn't actively remember. And in one of my hypnosis sessions, I realized that I had this whole fear that I thought was stemming from daddy issues, you know, like, oh, fear of pleasing my father or whatever. Well, it was actually fear of failing God. And I realized that it was such utter bullshit because I'd been spending my whole life talking to the church God and never heard back. And so I always assumed that I was this failure. And in realizing that it was all so fake and man-made, that I was trying to please this thing that didn't actually exist, I just said, fuck you, I'm out. And it was the most freeing session. And I woke up and just having this mindset now of, well, that was bullshit. What next? I just started reading and talking to people who actually had inner peace and looking at just religions all over the place. You know, what's the common thing that people seem to believe? And what do I find to be true when I meditate? You know, and listening to my inner voice rather than just listening to what people are trying to teach me and tell me is correct. And I just kind of wandered around and have just come to that. That's just kind of where I'm sitting right now, I guess.
Nice. Interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. Full circle.
Yeah. Full circle. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
and
great.
You know, at the end of the day, whatever it is, it is. Whether we believe it, fucking who cares?
I think that's what it is for me. I think I have gotten, you know, I was raised Jewish, but we weren't really religious. It was more like I was more culturally Jewish. You know, like we celebrated the holidays and stuff. I had my bar mitzvah, but I didn't like, as soon as I had my bar mitzvah, I think that was when I was like, all right, I'm done. Because that was sort of like the last thing I had to do to please my parents, but they weren't really religious either. But I think like I never was a fan of organized religion. I even my own, you know, it wasn't like I didn't like these other religions. It was like I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't see how you can believe that there is a single truth when there are other groups of people believing the same thing. So you're always going to be at odds because you believe that, okay, this is our truth. You know, we believe that this is how, you know, man was made and how the earth was created, and this is where you go and this is who you pray to. And it's like, okay, so you believe this and they believe something totally different, and you both think you're right, and you're both going to live your lives according to this doctrine. And it's like, I don't. So I just think it's all bullshit.
Yeah. And there have been a lot of singular moments things that have happened that have affirmed this to me. But one in particular was back after I had the girls, I had some pretty bad postpartum depression. And there was one day that I was really thinking about suicide. And I was just crying on the inside, you know, cold on the outside, crying just desperately into the ethers that I just felt worthless. And that day I had 3 separate friends that hadn't talked to me in ages reach out to me and say, Sonja, you're on my mind. Something told me to call you. One of them actually was somebody that she didn't call me. I went to this restaurant to pick up some food, and there she was standing outside the restaurant, and she knew somebody that worked there, but she said, you know, I just had this feeling I needed to come here today, and I didn't really know why, and I thought it was maybe to see him, but I see that it's to see you. And that, like, I had these little mini connections. Oh. And after this happened in that day, and I looked at it, I'm like, but all of those people have different faiths. None of them are my parents' religion. So there is something different that ties us all together. That isn't this, you know, that's this universal consciousness, the energy flow. It's whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. The collective unconscious.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
like thoughts matter. And if you're tuned in, you're tuned in.
Yep. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think I love Twitter, and especially, NFT Twitter and Web3, because I feel like it's one of the only places where I've been able to truly like connect with people and avoid all of the politics and religion and all, like,
Yeah.
it does not creep in, and I love it. And like, I don't know what religion you are, and I don't know, like, I don't know what people's political beliefs are, and I'm able to collect art from people and sell art to people and build relationships with people, and I have no idea like what their religious or political affiliations are. And it's so nice to see the humanity in people again.
And you know what they all have in common? Everybody has a skull. That's
Yeah,
it.
there you go. Exactly. And they don't know what happens to us when we die.
Yeah.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that too. Like not even knowing what country somebody is from when you're talking to them.
Yeah.
It's just really made me aware too of how many assumptions I make because I'm so used to dealing primarily with Americans. And just in like saying, well, where are you from? And you say your city. Well, okay, that's a little fucking arrogant.
Yeah, right. Like they're supposed to know that this city that you live in is somewhere in the United States.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is
Yeah.
a really large can.
It is. Yeah, you know what? So I don't know when I started doing this, but I am like water obsessed. So I drink 2 of these in the morning when I wake up, and then I drink them all throughout the day.
Yeah.
And then I drink one right before bed.
Oh,
One of these right before bed.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you can actually hold it all night long?
I hold it all night long, and it also helps me wake up in the morning because I wake up when my alarm goes off. I'm like, I gotta pee. So I'm
Oh,
like forced to get
good.
up. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I think over time, as I get older, I'll
Yeah.
probably be able to hold it less.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's also I don't really get hungry throughout the day,
Yeah.
so I'm just drinking water all day.
That's handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about, I feel like you've said something, and that's why I wanted to ask you, was like about the FOMO thing that people create, that is, that we sort of create in Twitterland and in the NFT space. What's your take on FOMO?
Fucking hate it.
That's what I thought. I think I was like, I kind of remember that Sonja fucking hates FOMO, so I wanted to bring that
Yeah.
up. Let's hear it.
Okay. So I think my hatred of FOMO started back when bro culture was more prevalent because every tweet was, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go, bro. And I just got to the point where I'm like, would you stop shouting at me to buy your NFT? Just stop shouting at me. And then when I met some people in person and I'm like, wow, that's how you are in real life. Like, you're a real life personification of let's fucking go. It's like, I'm not buying into that.
Yeah.
And I get that there's like marketing magic that has to happen. But the truth of it is like, until an artist is dead, there is always more art because it comes from here. So like this idea of scarcity is such bullshit. There's an endless supply. It's just what we choose to show you.
Yeah.
And I get that I suck at it. I overmint and I burn and I overmint and I burn. But I just can't put it on myself to put that fear in somebody that they need to buy now, because to me, that's deceptive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true. That's interesting.
but it's like taking authenticity and honesty. Like, how far do you want to go with this? Do you really want to tell your collector you're working on 200 pieces? Hey, buy this one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, buy this one of one. I've got 200 more just like it.
Right. But if you ask a lot of artists, they have a fuck ton of work stored up.
Yeah.
Even physical artists, like the painters I know, they're like, dude, I've got a warehouse full of paintings. Come and look,
Yeah.
So
hey, do
I
you
don't
do
really
any
know what to do
physical stuff? I know you print your stuff on like the God, I saw some of the stuff that you had printed metal. It was like on metal. Yeah, the aluminum.
Yeah.
Do you sell those prints? Those aluminum
I'm gonna
prints?
start. I'm actually in something later this month, my first physical kind of group artist show. I'll probably have 10 pieces.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. In Seattle?
Yeah, in Seattle. And I'm cobbling together my website, and I'm gonna put some stuff together because I feel like I'm missing a lot of my opportunity by just focusing solely on NFT. And I used to do more physical. I've just never been a painter, but like I do stained glass. And so one thing I really want to, and I have all the equipment for it. I made my first pattern. I'd always gone off patterns in books, but I designed my first pattern. I got the glass. I just, need the time to sit down and do it. But what I would really like to try doing is printing some of my abstract fractally work on glass and then incorporating those in glass panels and stained glass.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah,
I've got a lot of
really
ideas
cool
for how to take this to the next level. I just have to find the time to do it, which is actually why I'm not on Twitter so much, because I need some of those 6 to 8 hours a day back.
Really 6 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Well, I also want to talk to you about you're also a big collector. I know from.
And I have some of your pieces.
Yes, you do. And you actually, you really got me jump started on known origin. When I put out my Genesis piece on known origin, and then I think I had another one or two after that, and it was like, like you collecting those just like started a fire. It's crazy because you never know like what's going to be the thing that changes things for somebody, and it was such a catalyst for me. So
That's
I'm
amazing.
super grateful to you always, of course. But like, what do you look for in an artist when you're collecting? Is it like the way it makes you feel, or are there certain people that you just like feel a connection to, and so you love their art more? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I tend to like darker art more. So I think I kind of filter art that way, but a lot of it is really spontaneous, based off of relationships I have with other artists. I feel like, I don't want to support assholes. So
Yeah,
I really like to kind of have an idea of who the person is, unless it's something that I just want to ride the FOMO and flip real quick and try to make some ETH or something. But I try to look at what I buy as, do I still want to have this in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Do I really want to pay the money for this? Or is it just in hopes of having it be an investment? I think in the beginning I was buying investment art, and now I'm not at all interested in investment art, because I think, the best investment art I have is up here. And so I would rather focus more time on creating my art than looking to make a quick buck on other people's art.
Yeah.
And so now I collect more to support the community, and I still get art that I like, but I do it more because I want to be part of the bigger thing. I want to be part of the bigger solution. And I feel like by supporting the smaller artists, I can do that better than, I think I was collecting some of the bigger artists to start with because I wasn't really sure what to do. And that seemed like the safer option. But, sending all your ETH to the same wallet doesn't do any fucking good for the community. It does a lot of good for one person.
Yeah.
And so kind of leaving the bro culture, I left some of that too. And I'm like, okay, let me go out. Because part of it when I first came into the space was I didn't understand that so much of the art was male centric. And so when I saw those statistics for myself of how much male art was selling versus female art, I made a real point to go out and look for the female artists. And so that kind of tied into my segue out of buying some more common artists to, okay, no, I'm just going to go out and find people who are amazing artists and I like their art and try to do a little bit.
Yeah.
I
love that. By the way, where did you see that that report? Do you have it that you could send to me and I can include it in the comments?
Yeah, I can find it. It's, oh God, it's probably 9 months old at this point, but yeah, I can find it.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm interested in seeing that.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you still have your mutant?
I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you been to a Bored Ape event?
Yes.
What was that like?
I think it would have been cool 20 years ago. It was fun.
The truth comes out. The truth comes out. Because you don't you hear about everybody, like the hype leading up to it and everybody taking pictures at the event, but you don't really hear afterwards, like, that would have been cool 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it just reminded me of a college party, like with beer and plastic glasses standing on a rooftop. In New York was when I got to go.
Okay.
It was actually fun because I have enough mutants and an ape, whatever, that I was able to get tickets to take Senator Greaves,
nice.
and then Luther. And so we got to have a really fun night, and they made it for me.
Yeah.
Just going to the event would have been kind of a letdown.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Wes and Luther.
I love those guys. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Who's an artist that you're really excited about right now? Someone who sort of like maybe inspires you, or you just, maybe seen how hard they're working and they're gonna really make it.
Yeah. There's like,
I know there's so many.
Okay, but I think one of my biggest inspirations is Nina, Design Nina. Yeah. And she's just like a beautiful human being. And so I feel just, I get to have these conversations with her that are just so heartfelt and sweet. And she's so fucking smart and so talented. And her art is so different than mine. When I first saw her art, I just didn't know how to understand it. She was doing the 3D sculptures.
Mm-hmm.
And I really tried.
Yeah.
And then I saw her grow and her art kind of shift into the 3D modeled beings that she does now. And just the wisdom she embeds in her work, it feels like the wisdom I try to embed in mine. She just has this completely modern way of doing it, but it's such old wisdom with modern tools. And every time she shows me a piece of art, I'm just like, new favorite,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw her, she shared a process video of the one where it's like the two people, their backs to each other and they're holding hands. And when I saw the sketch, like the way she designed it and then the final product, I think I grew a new appreciation for what she does too. So it's like, oh wow, I didn't even know it started as a sketch.
Yeah, I know, because
the whole 3D thing is so outside of my like realm of understanding, because I've never even tried. So
yeah, she's really opened my eyes. So
yeah,
her.
Yeah, nice.
What about you?
Gosh, I didn't expect you to ask me. I think, God, there's so many. I've been like on a collecting binge too. I've been buying so much stuff. I think one of the artists that I'm like really, really excited about, who's doing something really unique, and I'm excited because he's finally starting to get some attention and traction, and like sells out everything, is Jonas
Oh,
Krakow Dream.
yeah.
Yeah. So I got his known origin Genesis months ago, and it was like what you did for me. You know, it sort of like was not that, you know, his success has anything to do with
Oh,
me.
no, but we need
But
the energy.
yeah, but you know, it's like now like everything he puts out sells out right away. And his
Yeah.
work is evolving so much too. Like I can just see like all the energy in his work. So he's someone that's like sort of not new but newer that I'm like really excited about. And then Rizal Raj, he's
Yes.
like
Love his work.
one of my favorites all
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah. You know, you brought up something interesting, work evolution. So I'm
mhm.
curious how you feel about that. As far as like, I don't know, from the artist perspective, from the collector perspective, it's something that I'm really churning through lately because I don't feel like I have, like you made a comment, you can look at my art and see my style.
Mhm.
And I've had people mention that to me before, that like whether I'm showing photography or something else, you can kind of identify my style in it. But I wonder at what point I'm alienating people because like, okay, now I'm off on video. And it's, you know, and I'm trying to figure out how to navigate that in this space that I can't do the same art.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's an interesting question, and I think that you, Sonja, I think that like your video work and anything that you do is gonna have such a Sonja touch to it that like you have all the freedom in the world to expand and evolve your style and everything, because we're all going to get to witness it. And I think that, you know, being in that journey with you, you know, your style in whatever you do will continue to be recognizable, because even if you sort of diverge from what you're doing now, your work's going to have that touch to it, you know, it'll have that unique style. So, I mean, I was given a great opportunity by Maddie to go over to Known Origin, and
Yeah.
he's like, you know, you don't have to draw rappers. And I was like, really? And because it was like, okay, I didn't even know the guy that drew rappers, and I had a huge, you know, it was like everything I put out I sold, and I was like, I could like quit my job, you know. And then he's like, yeah, you don't have to draw rappers, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, how is the world gonna respond to that? Like I don't know, like I felt pigeonholed into the work I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think all it took was him just like giving me permission as a collector too. He's a collector of mine, and he's like, you can do whatever you want, you're the artist.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So that's a very long-winded answer.
so I really appreciate your encouragement though, because it's not like I can control what I'm making. It's
Yeah.
just, part of me is just like, do I try to take the performance aspect of it out of NFT land? Because I have to make this. It's just, who's my consumer? And trying to figure out just how to, I don't know. I don't have to sell art. That's the thing. Like I need to make it.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't need to sell it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that there's a lot of value in this space from the community too. Like I think we as a community put a lot of value in people evolving and experimenting, and like seeing people take risks, and even if it's so different than the work they were doing for the last year, you know. Because that's what you want, you know. We
Yeah.
all obviously we want this the whole community to grow and evolve, and who knows, you know, whatever, you know, your video work might inspire somebody to do something, and it could start a whole movement. You never know.
Yeah. You
Like, you just never know.
Yeah. You know, Hoisan is such a good example of growth, but retaining a signature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, his work that he was doing, actually, I messaged him about something, and I saw the first message I ever got from him was like, I think it was September or October of last year, introducing himself. Hey, I'm Hoisan, I'm an artist, and I'd love for you to check out my work, you know, like, which is so weird, right? To think,
I know, it's
like,
adorable.
He was DMing people. I know, I'm like, I think I'm gonna screenshot this and mint it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, the stuff he was doing a year ago isn't what he's doing now, but he definitely has maintained that unique style across all of his work. So
yeah,
he's a good example.
But thank you for the encouragement.
Yeah, I just want to see people doing what they're most passionate about.
Yeah,
so
totally.
It'll come out in your work too, you know, like that energy that you put into it's going to be amazing. So wow, we've gone much longer than an hour, huh? I don't even know what time we started this. I think it was like 12:45. So I think it's like an hour and a half already. Is there anything that the world doesn't know about you, the NFT Twitter world, that you want them to know?
I feel like I'm pretty out there all the time.
You are. Yeah. You don't hold back. I love that.
No, we don't hold back. That's just it. Like, there is no other me.
Yeah.
This is it. I swear a lot. I have a loud house. I've got kids, a dog, cats. I make a lot of art. I get mad just like everybody else. I get frustrated just like everybody else. I drink a little bit too much vodka sometimes. I'm starting to enjoy my edibles. It's just like, we're all fucking human. That's the thing. We're all the fucking same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think that the authenticity that you give us is what drew me to you to begin with, you know. Like, I always felt like I was always getting Sonja, no matter when I talked to you, whether it was good or bad, you know, if you were having a good day or a bad day, I was like, it's still Sonja, like, she'll keep it real.
Sorry about those bad days.
No,
it's all good.
That's what it's all about. I love the community that we've built, and
absolutely.
You know, it's so nice to know that, like, when you're having a shitty day, you can go into one of these chat groups that we have and be like, hey guys, had a really shitty day today, sorry I haven't been around, you know, and everyone's like, you know, all love, you know.
Well, and the funny thing is as soon as you admit you're having a bad day or you have doubts or something, then everybody's like, oh my God, I am too, thank you for saying it. It's like, keep it real.
Yeah. We're not always having a great day. So
no.
Real life.
The one thing I've refrained from doing is posting a video of me crying. That's, I think, something I'll probably keep myself, but
well, you can cry in the DMs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm so grateful that we had this opportunity to talk, and I don't know how there was more to learn, but I feel like I learned so much today about you, and I could talk to you for another 5 hours.
I'm totally. Thank you for having me, and I really can't wait to get down to Southern California and see you and Teresa and Jillian, and there's people down there.
I know. We should totally. We should do an event. I think they have like NFT LA or something, but it'd be cool to do something in like somewhere down here and just invite
Totally.
people. It's a great destination. So
Yes, especially in the middle of winter when we all need some sun.
yeah, it's like really sunny out here right now. So,
Nice.
well,
Oh,
thanks again. It's been
thank
lovely.
you.
Appreciate your time. Yeah.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure.
All right. We'll
Okay.
talk soon. Okay. Bye.